Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. My name is Adeswa Adewale, and I'm a member of the DoRight Initiative. The prosperity of a nation, or any nation, is anchored on the values and uprightness of the people and their leaders. The DoRight Initiative is a national movement that was birthed in Q1 of 2022, which is just last year, to mobilize like-minded Nigerians who understand the actual damage that lawlessness and moral decadence has done to our nation over the last couple of years. This imperative of reversing it is inviting you to join us in developing a movement to initiate a rebirth, a new mindset, where every Nigerian sincerely desires to do right everywhere, every time. We aim to be the credible voice that boldly speaks the truth while demonstrating and championing causes that improve the quality of lives of people at local, state, and national level. At this point, it's important for me to state that we are non-partisan, we're a non-religious group, and our vision is very straightforward: to reawaken and entrench uprightness in Nigeria. Reawakening and entrenching uprightness in Nigeria. That is our vision. Last year, when we introduced this initiative, we had some processes that we also displayed our mindset via some radio jingles. We had some value transformation presentations, discussions with about 5 secondary schools, over 5 local government areas, and we reached out to almost 200 students across that premise. We also talked to some girls in a girls' correction center in Yaba, and our aim was to shape their minds positively for the future. We've also had several meetings since the month of May 2022 on this platform, approximately 1 year ago, where we had guests of reputable character that have come to talk about relatable topics such as what it means to do right by our nation, what it means to do right at home, what it means to do right in schools, what it means to do right in the workplace or in business. So we've been talking about this for quite some time. And we've had strong support from our audience who also participate. This program is a 1 hour long, so we'll try to make it as concise, as potent, and ensure that the input that we have will last long enough for us to make a change that we desire for our nation. This year, over the next 5 months, we have one topic we'll be discussing: doing right by our nation. My role, your role, our role. Reawakening and entrenching uprightness in Nigeria. When you point the finger at another person, some people will say 4, but I say really 3 are pointing back at you. We're not here to point fingers at anybody. We're here to collectively share our initiatives, our experiences, and ideas that will take us closer to our vision for the nation. Our leaders come from our population, not outside our population. They come from our population. And we want to begin to ensure that the people that we churn out as leaders have the right values for our nation. So the change starts with you, it starts with me, it starts with us. Today, our guest for this evening is a man of impeccable character, a man that exudes wisdom, and being in his presence incites me, when I converse with him, to strive to be a better version of myself. I dare say he needs no introduction, but I'll just give a tip that he's been in broadcasting. He was the chief executive and chairman of Cadbury at some point. He's been a lecturer at the Pan-African University, discussing very salient topics that align with what we are doing here today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Kolade, Dr. Christopher Kolade, in our midst this evening. You can appreciate him by your reactions. That would be great, so he can see you and see them as well. And as we go along this program, the floor is open At some point, we open at some point for questions from the people that are participating on the Zoom call. But of course, we will start by asking him some questions so that we get a feel of his pulse, and then we begin to shape. I will remind you and enforce no political discussions will be allowed, absolutely none. Non-religious as well, too, in terms of not inciting. We will talk strictly on the topic. So remind again that we are non-political, we are non-partisan. Very important, non-religious, please. Very, very important. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Kolade this evening. Welcome, sir. It's really a privilege to be with you.
Thank you very much.
And my very first question to you on this topic is, why do you feel such an initiative is important to Nigeria and for Nigerians?
Thank you for welcoming me, and thank you everybody for this session, which it's a session of discussion, a session of conversation between citizens of Nigeria. And for myself, the reason why I'm so happy to be here is that when I look back on my career, Nigeria has given me so many opportunities to do things that were okay. So I think I owe Nigeria a debt to also try to repay, try to return some benefit from what I've had. So to do right by our nation, as a Nigerian citizen, I feel that this is not something that is optional for me. It is something that I am supposed to, because I have gained so much from Nigeria. And therefore, anything that I can do in return will be good for my psychology and will be good for everything. But if we're discussing doing good, doing the right thing for Nigeria, today, when we look at our country, you can think of some of the things that we're experiencing that seem to defeat what we say we're going to do. I'm just showing you 4 examples, 4 illustrations. In their own country, there are masses of our fellow citizens who have fled from their homes, fled from their villages and places, and are now living in camps for internally displaced people. There are peasant workers, farmers, and people like that who are going to their farm to just do their daily work and get a little from there, and they get attacked by other people who want to deny them their life and freedom. Then you know also that people who go to mosques or churches to worship without offending anyone get attacked and massacred. And then if you look at our reputation abroad, you'll find that people are wondering what kind of nation we have turned into. But the point is that the topic today is reawakening. Reawakening, which means that it is not something new. It's something we've done before. And uprightness is something that we're familiar with, because not only do we know the definition of uprightness, we also know that in our village communities, in my village, if you steal someone else's chicken or goat, that is something that the society does not tolerate, and you and your descendants will acquire a notoriety for being that kind of person. So these are values that we're used to. So today we're talking about reawakening and entrenching these values. That we know they exist already, but they have been inactive, they have been dormant, and it is our duty to make them active and effective again. So I'm glad to be here, and I believe that the reason why we think that this is necessary is that we have been good people before. If you remember, there was a time they said that our national civil service was one of the best in the Commonwealth. There were countries that came to us and said, please send us somebody to come and help us to set up our own judiciary, set up our own civil service. This was the reputation we had. Then somehow we have lost that. And now we're struggling to get back again. But the point is, it is we who are going to do this, and it is by getting the right values reawakened and entrenched. So the reason why we must do this is that we know we've been better before, and we want to be better again. And we are responsible. That word responsibility is very important for everyone to take note of.
Thank you very much, sir, for your introductory words on this very important topic. One of the things that we want to achieve from the various discussions that we are going to have over the next 5 months, like I mentioned, is for us to get ideas and initiatives from this platform, from people like Dr. Kolade, from other people that will also make contributions, and begin to document these ideas in the concrete manner that we can implement. Remember, it starts with me. It starts with you. It's about us. What are you doing as well? Before we go into the questions that people might want to ask you on this platform, sir, I'll ask you a similar question to the first one. What does it mean to do right by our nation? To do right by our nation?
Well, let us remember that the nation is not a new nation. And we've already about ourselves before. We have a constitution that describes who we are. We say in that constitution that we are one nation under God. In other words, we are one nation, not several, but we believe that we are under God. And because we are under God, we have to remember that there is no other standard that we're going to go by except by standards that are pleasing to God. Now, if we take God seriously, then we know that this responsibility is not a light one. And it means that every single one of us has to do something for oneself and for everybody else to make sure that we are following what God wants. And so I want to emphasize that at the beginning, that we are one nation under God. And then when you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic, the Constitution actually tells us that we have something called national ethics. And those national ethics shall be discipline, integrity, dignity of labor, social justice, religious tolerance, self-reliance, patriotism, which means that we know the things that are good for us. Those are the attributes, the values that will lead us to do good, to do right for our nation. And so also, when we now elect people or appoint people to do things in our public offices, we actually make them swear oaths to say, we are going to do this in accordance with the national ethics. We're going to do this so that we do not depart. What is we are going to do? And then take the national anthem, national pledge. These are things that we make people say, and say seriously, because we want them to commit to what they're saying. So that's the introduction to that question, which says, why indeed should we be trying to do this? And we're doing this because this is the best way for our nation to become a better nation. And if you look at what the Constitution says, it is not something that is optional for a citizen. It says in section 24 of the Constitution that it shall be the duty of every citizen, to abide by the Constitution, to respect what the Constitution says, to respect even the national flag, the national anthem, the national pledge. We are duty bound to do these things. So if for any reason we find ourselves doing different or not doing what we're committed to do, we are failing in our duty and responsibility. And so my point tonight is to say we must abide by the Constitution and respect what the Constitution says we're going to do. And it is interesting to know that we can do these things. We can do these things. They're not difficult for us to do because we know what it means to be upright. We know what it means to be helping other people. We know what it is to be following the leading of God, following the Constitution. Because when we make a national pledge, for example, the national pledge is in very simple language. It requires each citizen to start with self. I pledge to Nigeria, and this Nigeria is my country. And then we go into values: faithfulness, loyalty, honesty. When we then say that we're going to serve Nigeria, we're going to serve, and we're going to defend and uphold and so on. And you know the beautiful thing about this pledge and about all the oaths that we swear is that we say at the end, so help me, God. What that means is that because we have said we're one nation under God, we know that even if we have any problems or challenges doing the things that we are responsible to do, God is the one we go to for help.
Thank you very much, sir. You've laid a very strong foundation, reminding us today insights that challenge me to be a better version of myself. First of all, for myself, and that's only when I can have a positive impact on my nation. Can you share some experiences that you've had that have challenged you in this regard to doing right in our great country, Nigeria?
Yes. Well, thank you for that question. I recall, and I said at the beginning, that Nigeria has given me many opportunities. Yes, this was the way that we did those things in those days. I've also been fortunate to go outside this country and represent the country as a High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. And the duty of the High Commissioner and the other people in the High Commission is to make sure that the people you're living with have the right ideas about Nigeria and discuss Nigeria as a respectable nation. So for instance, just to give you an example, when I first went to be High Commissioner, one of the things that I decided we ought to do was I called my senior officers together and said, let us explain to ourselves why we're here. Why are we here as a High Commission? What is really the result that we're looking to achieve? The result we're looking to achieve is to make sure that there is an understanding of what Nigeria is as a nation, an understanding that Nigeria wants to be a good nation, an understanding that we are doing everything to realize what we want. So I've had those kinds of experiences, and those experiences mean that you know you're working for the nation, not for yourself, not for your narrow clan or narrow group. You are working for the nation. And so the Constitution says you are working for the nation. The pledge says you want to serve your nation. Those are the values that govern those experiences that I have.
Over time, and I value myself as a good example, living in a nation has proven to be, I use the word interesting. I like to use the word interesting. I love my country, Nigeria, and anywhere I'm in the world, I tell my friends, I always want to come back to my bed, to my house, to my home. But there are certain things you want to do, and you have that mindset that you want to do the right thing. The environment around you is like a force that's pushing you in a direction that on your own, you would want to go towards. People are doing businesses that feed households, and you find out that due to that environment that we operate in, certain things that you should do that should be seamless are made cumbersome, and you might have to cross hurdles that you don't want to cross to be able to get and achieve the end result. It's quite trying, it's quite taxing, and it's as though this relentless force over the years has been increasing in magnitude, and the numbers are growing. When we talked about leadership coming from our population, it's a reality. What you get is what has been fed into the nation. And this initiative that we have to reawaken what we already defined for ourselves as a nation is one that is like a force we have to push against with everything that we have. You've led at the helm of affairs international businesses in the nation. You've spoken to various reputable, high echelon-based people about doing business in our nation. You're looking very good, sir, this evening.
Yeah.
And your eyes have seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your advice to a young man that's hearing this? A young Nigerian can be anywhere in the world. A young lady that has bright visions about tomorrow, but is dampened by the realities of what they see today. How would you advise that person from where you sit today, sir?
Well, it's important for everybody to understand that you are one person. You're not half a person. You're not a fraction. You're one person. So you have the right to behave as one person, but you also have the responsibility to carry the load of one person. So let us always remember that if you know yourself, and if you know the capacity that you have, the talents that God has given you, and you make up your mind to use those talents as yourself, that's the first thing you have to understand. Do not try to be what other people want you to be. You must be yourself, and you must be realistic about yourself, knowing not only what you are capable of doing, but also what your limitations are, so that you don't take on something that you cannot deal with. Now, self-identity is very important, but self-identity means that every time that I do anything, I want to do my best. Anything that is going to involve me doing something, I don't want to do something below my best. So it is important that even if people are trying to get you to do something where you have to make compromises, it is your job, your duty to do your best. Because at the end of the day, it is only when you do your best that you can be proud to identify yourself with the results that you achieve. So what advice do I have? The advice I have is that if you try to be yourself and to do your best, nobody requires you to do more than that. But search your own mind. When you produce a result, ask yourself the question, is this the best that I could do? If it is not the best, it is your job, your duty to try to achieve more and to try to get to the best. So it is not difficult for anybody to do what they should do, provided they make up their minds that they will always do their best. And the best means that you will use the values like integrity, honesty, probity, and things like that to color whatever you're doing. If you're doing worse than that, then you are not really doing well for yourself, let alone for your nation.
Like I said, I always take notes when Dr. Kolade is talking. We have some people that have made comments in the chat box. If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. You'll be identified and we'll unmute you, and you can ask your question directly. So right now we have a question online, and I think it stems into what we just talked about now. Golani is asking, said, how do we change the mindset of the average Nigerian to love and consider the needs of their neighbor and uphold values that promote good citizenship? A concept you and Shego Aganga proposed the Nigerian Leadership Initiative.
Yes, as I've said, you see, if you look at the environment which you're living, there are people who want you to be something or to do something, yes, to do something that pleases them. But you see, at the end of the day, you must use the identity of yourself as the basis of anything you do. So how do we change mindset? No, mindset is not changed from outside. Mindset is changed by the individual, because there is no law that you can pass and bring into effect that says the individual must do his best. That's not a legal requirement. It is a moral requirement. And so you have to, the individual has to say to himself or herself, I will not do lower than my best. And I want to emphasize this, because really, when we do our best, we can do very well. I give you one illustration. There are people who leave this country to go and serve nations abroad, to go and serve international nations. And we get reports that they are doing very well, that they're very respectable, that people like them. There are places where people go for, say, 2 or 3 year tenure, and they're asked to remain, to continue for 6 or 7 years because they are showing good quality. That shows that the individual is the one saying, I want to be what I can be. The only way to change a mindset is for the individual to say, I want to be the best. And the reason I want to be the best, the reason is that only when I'm the best am I doing 3 things. 1, I am helping my nation. 2, I am fulfilling all the promises I made in my pledge. And 3, I am using the help that God is giving me. If God is really helping you, you will not do lower than your best. So mindset is something you change yourself. And you change yourself because you have a good self-identity.
Thank you very much, sir. We have some hands up. I will start with Pastor Wale Adefarasi. I'm going to ask you to unmute. And immediately after that, Solomon Additional will come on next. Pastor Wale, are you able to unmute, please?
I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
I'm so happy to see you. It's been a long time. One of the questions that has agitated my mind, and I wonder if you can give suggestions, is that we all agree that many years of decadence have changed the mindset of Nigerians. I'm coming back to this mindset idea. What can we, as a foundation, do to reorient the Nigerian mindset? I mean, we've talked to young people who are in school, and they see nothing wrong with cheating at exams. So beyond the individual, what can we as a group do to change people's mindset, to reorient people's mindset?
All right, thank you very much. The first thing is what you are already doing now, trying to create awareness, trying to get people to know not just to know what they ought to do, but to understand why they should do those things. You see, knowledge by itself is not enough. People must have an understanding of why this is the right way to go. But, you see, this is not a one-way street. Even when the individual wants to do right, they are doing something within a context. And that context is a society or a community or even a nation. There are also certain things that the nation has to ensure. For instance, the Constitution tells us what the rights are of a citizen, but also what the responsibilities are. Now, if the rights are not being achieved, it is very difficult to expect citizens to take their responsibility. So first, you have to ensure on a national level that what we say we're going to do in the Constitution is actually done. Let me give you just one illustration. If we say that there is a certain law, and if anyone breaks this law, that person will go to court or go to jail. If that's what we have said, then we should not exempt anybody from that. If a person, however highly placed, however intelligent, breaks that law, we should make sure that we show he has broken the law and that he will receive the sanction that we have said we're going to give. So it's a two-way thing. The individual says, my mindset is to do the right thing. But when I do the right thing, and I see other people doing the wrong thing, I do not see them suffer any consequences. And therefore I say, why do I continue to do the right thing? So you see, it's a two-way street. We have to make sure in our society that if we say that doing something right is good, then you get the reward for doing good. And if we say that doing something wrong is bad, then you get the consequences of that. So for me, not only should we practice awareness, but also make sure that we're doing what we said we would do. When people do well or do wrong, this is what will happen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pastor Wale. I feel privileged to have grown up at a time when a neighbor would correct me like my mother would have without her being there. Today, our children are seeing the examples that are beyond imagination of how a nation should not be led by the individuals that live in them. And by leadership, we're not talking about just the people that we look up to because they have been placed there, but every single citizen and every adult in our nation. And just as Dr. Kolade has said, as we identify ourselves, what do we see of ourselves? How do we see ourselves? The mirror that's looking back at us, thinking of where you're coming from to where you are now. Is that the reflection you want for posterity? I'm going to go to Solomon Adesina. I'm going to ask you to unmute your mic now and ask your question, please. Remember, you can post your questions online.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear
Hello?
you.
Okay. Good evening, sir. I'm one of your children. Unfortunately, they couldn't put my face on. I tried to put my face on, but it's not coming on. So
You're muted. We can't hear you, you're muted.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I remembered when you were the High Commissioner here, everything was so smooth that when you walk in, you feel like a Nigerian. And I could find out that the continuation of leadership, when you left, things went back to what they were. I live in England, so And I'm privileged, I know you. I'm not that close, but I'm close to your family. So, but the point is that immediately you left, things went back. I found out that we Nigerians, we don't have a continuity system. You laid a very good foundation because those who are not to be there, then you remove them. Even when your first driver, I remember, because I think I know if I was so that close that they were not, but immediately you left. Instead of the continuation, Nigerians always have the belief that, okay, that is your own system. Because I know when leaders lay down a foundation, they will say, oh, that's there. We don't have a right continuous system that will make things to move on smoothly. Can you, why do we have that? Because
yes, let me try to address that. And thank you for all the good remarks you made about me as High Commissioner. But when I was leaving London, leaving that position, people said to me, after you go, what will happen? Things may go back to what they were. There was one word I had for everybody. And this word is what I want to share with you now. When a leader gives you service, leadership service, you are the recipient of that service. So it is not just the leader giving service, it is also other people receiving service. We also have a responsibility to make sure that if we have received good service, we make sure that we stand firm and say, sorry, we've had better service than this, we need good service. Accountability is one of the things that leaders must practice. The leader is accountable to those that he is leading. And if he is not satisfying them, or he's doing worse than they expect, they must say so. And they must use every means possible to make sure that they establish the fact, and it's a fact, that the leader is accountable to the people he is leading. So if things deteriorate, it is not just the leader's fault. It's also because we, the recipients of the service, are not standing firm and saying, we will not accept something that is inferior to what we had before.
Thank you, Mr. Additional, for that very clear question, and Dr. Kolade for giving us a concise answer. So you see it, you like it, you uphold it by giving feedback and standing firm. In a nation, standing firm sometimes has put people in jail. In a nation, standing firm has killed people, actually, if you stand firm. In a nation, standing firm has made people go hungry. These are the realities that we face in the environment that we operate in. One voice is one voice. 10 voices, 10 voices. 100 voices, 100 voices. The louder we say it in a collective manner, the push we give back to what has been entrenched in our nation, and we begin to make the correction that we desire. I'm going to invite Ivy Marsh to please unmute your mic. And like I said, if you have your question, please raise up your hand or put it in the chat box. Ivy or Evie, if you don't mind the way I pronounce your name, just kindly unmute your mic.
Good evening, sir. My name is Ivy Masher. I'm speaking from Houston, Texas. I would like to talk to you about education. I am a product of Corona School and the Federal Government College Lagos. And I look at Nigeria today and I begin to wonder if we have lost our ability for analytic thinking. Now, analytic thinking for me, I learned it in Corona when we were given reading and comprehension programs, where you read a book, the teacher asks you questions of who, when, what, how, and that helps you to analyze situations that you find yourself in. I look at Nigeria today and I see, when I come home, I see drivers driving against oncoming traffic. I see my citizens crossing streets that drivers are going at 100 miles an hour. Meanwhile, there's a zebra crossing down the road or a bridge. And I start wondering, is it that we have a problem with our education structure and we're not teaching our people how to think? I don't know, but and even the education structure is, you speak to a graduate, and even when they talk back to you, you wonder where they were raised. It's not you're a government college Ibadan graduate. When you were 19, the things you would say, do, act, these kids now, they're not even up to that standard. So I'm wondering, where did we go wrong and how can this be addressed? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your question. But don't forget that the driver that drives against traffic, the person that crosses the road in the wrong place, the one that is doing wrong, is the first owner of that responsibility. Do they know that they're doing the wrong thing? Do they know what would happen to them if they continue to do the wrong thing? Because you can say, look, law enforcement agencies must do something about this. Educators must do something about this. But if you have the information that this is the right thing to do, the first obligation that the individual has is to do the right thing. When you choose to do the wrong thing, oh yes, there may be people there to correct you, people to punish you, but you're doing the wrong thing is your own initiative. And so to begin with, don't let us put the burden on the corrective things that we have. Let us say that, you see, you put a road sign and say, this is a crossing. This is where you're to cross. And then somebody who sees that road sign, who sees the crossing, goes and crosses somewhere else. That is the person that has the first responsibility. So I agree that the educational system is not playing its role properly. The people to enforce correction are not doing as well as they should. But to begin with, if we know what the right thing to do, let us do it. Then the job that the correction people have to do becomes lighter because we are doing the right thing. And as I said earlier, if when you do the wrong thing, the nation punishes you, make sure that you earn the sanction for doing the wrong thing, then you don't do it next time. Then the person looking at you does not do the same thing. But first, do the right thing instead of the wrong thing. The correction people will do their job, and then those who are looking at you will also say, when this person did wrong, he was punished, so I should not do wrong. That's the way human beings are.
Okay, so just a reminder of who we are. We have just about 10 minutes left for the Doing Right Awareness Initiative, and our mission, our vision is to reawakening and entrench uprightness in our nation. A comment from Abiola Agumbi, the chat box says, the TREES acronym, transform policy, raise volunteers, enlightenment of the people, enrich the society, sustain sustainable inclusive activities on all platforms and fronts. One of the things we are good at doing as a nation is talking about what is going wrong. We can sit down here and we can go on, In Doing Right, we want to talk about what can be done right. What can be done right? And Dr. Kolade has given us some pointers to specific questions that have been asked this evening. I just want to reiterate a few of them. Talked about the identity of yourself. Who are you? Talked about the mindset is changed by the individual. Nobody does that for you. You take that responsibility for what you choose to do with your mind. In terms of what we can do, as an initiative, create awareness, which is one of the things we're doing on this platform, by talking about it in a positive manner, and then understand why this is the right way to go. And it speaks to the children that we have birthed in our nation. And just like Ivy was speaking about it, when she was here before, what she's seeing now, it's not getting better, but it will get better because we decided that we're going to make a change in our nation. You and I will make that change in our nation. Talked about each person should receive the sanction that is deserved. I say again, 1 voice, 10 voices, 100 voices, big difference, big difference. What are we doing about changing the landscape? And as he was talking, my mind went to, I think it's Tai Sholari, am I right? Tai Sholari, that was a teacher that had the school Mayflower. Yes, if I'm not wrong, my memory says me right. And I know he was linked to the road safety initiative that was developed for the nation. Am I right? Was Tai Sholari? Yes? No. Someone should help me online, please. I may be wrong in terms of the name. Let me check the messages. Okay, nobody's collaborating or disputing what I'm saying.
Yeah, somebody says yes.
Yes. So as he was speaking, I'm just thinking of one man that rose up and said, you know what, enough debts in this place. What can I do about it? And he drove it to a point where there was an institution that was created around that. So I know that he wasn't only the one involved, but he was quite central to the development of a lot of things that were done for road safety. And today, those benefits are still there today. Was it Wole Soyinka? Yeah. Oh, was it Wole Soyinka? Oh, forgive me then, Wole Soyinka. I'm mixing up. Okay. But then the point being that we can make a difference where we stay. We can make a difference where we walk. We can make a difference by coming up with ideas. And that's one of the things we want for this platform. And just before we round up, sir, I know Pastor Wale has talked about what we can do as an initiative, but we're talking about what we can do, me, you, us. How would you say from your own experience, you can tell us exactly steps we can take that are practical in the environment today?
Well, okay, let's get something right. You can only do things in an area where you have information, where you have the right circumstances. Tonight, I have referred to what the Constitution says. How many of our citizens actually know what the Constitution says? How many know the rights that they have under the Constitution and the responsibilities there? So first, it is our responsibility to make sure we have the right information and have it on time. And there are ways of getting information, but again, the nation has a role here. To what extent have we shared the points that the Constitution makes? What extent does the school child know, for instance, what the Constitution of his country says? Because it is from school that we must begin to share this information. From school, we build character, we build performance. And when people learn something in school and they understand, they do not depart from it. So our educational system must be tailored in such a way that we are getting the right information across, useful information for serving the nation. But the other thing is also that those who do wrong actually know that they're doing wrong. Most of them know that they're doing wrong, and therefore, making up your mind to do what is right is something that is a personal matter. If you choose to be a person of integrity, that is not a mass movement. It is not something that you do because other people are doing it. You do it because you have personal values. And those personal values come to us from Almighty God. That is why we say, when we swear an oath, when we make a pledge, so help me God. These are things that are available to us. But you see, the individual has to make up his or her mind that I am going to do it. One of the reasons why we do not always do right is that sometimes we look at what we have to do, and the benefit to us is not as good as we want it to be. We're so focused on self, satisfying self, that we forget that self is not in existence on its own. We are part of a community, we're part of a nation. So even when things are not right for the individual, it must be put in the context of what is right for the community. And remember that when things go wrong for the individual, it is reliance on the strength of the community that can be the way out. So these things are true, and we know they are true. But the important thing is that the individual must make up his or her mind and do. You see, if you read the Constitution again, we're saying that these are the things we want to do. These are the things we want to be. We can say a lot, but what are we doing ourselves? If we come to a situation where we have to make a decision, can we always be trusted to make the decision that is right? Doing is important, in fact, more important than saying. So those are some of the things that I want us to think about.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so by doing right, we'll honor our time that we have also defined for this program. 1 hour goes by very quickly, but we want to keep it as crisp as possible. And just as we wrap up, but there's some questions or comments that have been shared on this platform. We will push out this recording as far as we can so that people can have the privilege of listening in and then also getting the tutelage that we have under Dr. Kolade. I just want to remark on what Stella Ezemwa says here. She says, how can our leaders at all levels imbibe this Do It Right initiative? And from our stance, we say it starts with you, it starts with me, it starts with us. We are all leaders in our own right. We have a role to play to make this change. And our leadership comes directly from the pool of our nation, not anywhere else. We are the ones that will continue to build our leaders for tomorrow. And I turn to Dr. Kolade just to give us closing remarks on this very important topic of doing right by our nation, reawakening and entrenching uprightness in our nation.
There's something we haven't mentioned so far, and it's important. That if you decide that whatever the challenges that you're facing, you are going to do right, there may be a cost. You may have to pay a price. But you see, you must ask yourself, can I pay this price? Can I sustain this cost? And because you have said, so help me God, you can. Because you are going in accordance with what the nation requires you to do, you can. The individual is not on his or her own all the time. The individual must remember that there is help from Almighty God, there is help from other people. But the important thing is that you must make the right decision. And so I say, for instance, in the slide that you are seeing now, that if you're a true Nigerian citizen, the first thing is that you do not accept your responsibility for which you are not competent. Yes, there may be things that you need to learn, but you must be ready to learn those things so that you can perform well. Then you do your best and you make sure that you speak the truth at all times. Also, when you see people doing wrong, you refuse to be a wrongdoer because you know that as a proper person, you can do right. And when you see that people, the community itself is going wrong, be visible and vocal in opposing wrong conduct. But also, there are people around you who are doing well. Let us celebrate such people. Let us make sure that such people receive the support that they need from us, and they know we respect them because they're doing well. Finally, I say, if I say, I pledge to do something, I pledge to be faithful, to be loyal, to be honest, that is something that I must honor. If I don't honor it, then I'm betraying myself and I'm betraying the God who made me. And the prayer must be, let us not betray God. So finally, I say to you, because we are able to seek the help of God, and we have said we're going to seek his help. In our national anthem, in our pledges, we have said, please help us. But we know that God does not refuse to answer when we pray to him in faith and sincerity. He does for us what is right. He will always give us the help which we ask. So the question we must ask ourselves, are we serious? Do we really mean it when we ask for God's help? And when he has done something for us, given us provision, given us ability, are we ready to do our best with it? Because that is the best way. In fact, it is the only sure way to do right by our nation as we can at all times. I want to remind you that some leaders, we know a leader who said, the motto is, yes, we can. Yes, we can. If today, and as from today, each individual citizen says, yes, I can, and then goes forward to do what he or she can do, then that is the way to do right by our nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kolade. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks cannot even, they're overflowing. For our listeners, please know that you can learn more about this initiative by going to DoRight.ng. I repeat again, our website link is DoRight.ng. You can also follow us on Instagram. We're also on Facebook, and we share information about our initiatives and what we're doing. So join us, be a part of us. We need hands, and we are the ones that will make our nation great again. Indeed, yes, we can. Next month, about the same time, we'll have somebody else on this desk sitting to answer questions and share their own mind about how we can move our nation forward. I look forward to seeing you then. We'll expand the numbers that can attend, so forgive us for this gap for this month, for this meeting. Next time will be much better in terms of numbers that can join in. See you then. Spread the word. Be a good citizen of Nigeria. God bless you.